Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to the Takeout. Dow Jones Industrial Average today closed above 50,000 for the first time ever. Yesterday in the evening, the White House unveiled its cash-only website where consumers can find a handful of popular prescription drugs at discounted prices. During the Super Bowl this Sunday, a commercial will air touting the economic benefits of soon-to-arrive Trump savings accounts. All of the things I just mentioned, in one way or another, are part of the economic and affordability conversation in which this White House plays a central role. And all of it buried under the odious sludge of racism and bigotry, a direct result of, and therefore a reflection upon, President Trump, his White House, and its intentionally provocative social media habits. You know the essence of this story. President Trump at 11:44 p.m. Eastern last night reposted a video with mind-numbing prattle about voter fraud in the 2020 election. Near the end of that video, there is a clip depicting former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama as apes. Before I get to what happened next, let me say this. We debated how to handle this for quite some time today. Do we share the video, short and vile as it is? Or do we show just one frame? And does limiting this to one frame in any way lessen the inherent cruelty? How, we wonder, do we have a conversation during Black History Month, no less, about this spasm of social media sewage? What's the proper context? How do we build an intelligent conversation around one of these questions that asserts itself? Is there going to be long-lasting political damage or effects from all this? As you might imagine, booking a conversation like that brings its own challenges. There's social media courage, then there's TV courage. There was more this day of the former than the latter. But as ever, we will do our best. Now, let's get to the what happened next part, because it may mark in the arc of Trump's second term something of a watershed. Republicans who dared speak about this used unflinching terms to denounce the repost. South Carolina Republican Tim Scott, an ally of the Trump White House, said this: praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. The president should remove it. Note the phrase, the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House, meaning by any fair interpretation that it sits atop of list of racist things Senator Scott has noticed before. A small GOP cascade then followed. New York Congressman Mike Lawler, incredibly offensive. Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker, totally unacceptable. Nebraska Senator Pete Ricketts, a reasonable person sees the racist context. Maine Senator Susan Collins, appalling. At first, the White House, through Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, mocked inquiring reporters as peddlers of fake outrage. But this time-tested Trumpian retort, so frequently resilient, crumbled under the weight of its own indefensibility. Then came something almost as shocking. The White House reached, maybe clutched is a better word, for the oldest con in politics, anonymously blaming a low-level staffer, also nameless, for the mistake. No responsibility from the president. Just before noon, that repost was taken down. The handful of Republicans who called for an apology and the internet has recorded your names, well, you've been left wanting. We turn now, or I look straight ahead, to Weijia Jiang at the White House. Weijia, this happened within an hour in which there were dozens upon dozens of posts and reposts. That's interesting to note. And also we have reporting that the president today spoke to Tim Scott, the Republican senator from South Carolina.
Major, that's right. The president, or I should say the president's official account on Truth Social, shared this racist video as part of a tweet storm that started around 10:45 p.m. And this particular video was shared at 11:45 p.m. And so the reason that matters is because, as you laid out, right now the White House says it was an unidentified staffer who was responsible for this. And I can tell you all day we have been pressing the White House about who this person was. What kind of access does he or she have to the president's phone and social media accounts? And what kind of consequences, if any, this person will face? And Major, so far, we have heard nothing. But to your other question, yes, the president, we have learned exclusively here at CBS News, called up close ally, Senator Tim Scott, who is also notably the only black Republican in the Senate. He told Scott, through our reporting, that it was a staffer who made this mistake and then said he would take it down. But, Major, the reason why your timeline that you just laid out is so critical is because it seems that initially the White House did not understand the harm and the pain that this reposting caused so many Americans, even calling it fake outrage. But that real outrage poured in, and it might have been a small cascade, as you described it, of Republicans, but still, in this administration, that is quite notable because typically Republicans are very hesitant to weigh in, especially when it's about criticizing the president, especially when it's about his social media activity because he participates so often in social media. And so it is extremely notable, Major, that that very real outrage forced this White House to change its response and acknowledge that a mistake had been made.
Weijia Jiang, North Lawn of the White House, thank you very much. I promised you a conversation. Joining me now, NAACP President and CEO Derrick Johnson and Republican strategist Melik Abdul. Melik, I want to give you the opening word.
Well, I'm glad.
On this day.
Yeah, so I'm actually glad. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Obviously, this is my first time here on CBS in general.
Great to have you.
So I'm glad that the president deleted the tweet. I hear what they say, and I'll be honest. I don't believe that this was a lower level staffer. I don't believe that it wasn't intentional. And I say that because this is one of many instances where the president or the people around the president have made sort of these type of things that could be racially, we'll say even racially insensitive, and the White House hasn't backed out from it. We saw that during this time last year with the Doge staffer, and J.D. Vance was one of those who said that the person who made those, he was a young guy, bring him on back. We saw it again with the New York Republicans, where they made both racist and anti-Semitic marks with the New York Republicans. J.D. Vance kind of embraced him then. We saw it in 2024 when we were saying, hey, what you're saying about the Haitians eating dogs and cats, that has a tone to it that we don't like. So I don't believe that, for one, Donald Trump didn't post this himself, and I'm glad that you did the reporting because they were specific. If a lower level, and I'll tell you, if a lower level staffer had indeed done that, then it would have been very easy for the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, to immediately denounce it. Well, she did not. And the only reason that I could think of that she doubled down on it, she didn't just say that it was, fake outrage. She said that there are other things that the American people should be concerned about. You would not say that if it were a lower level staffer because it's very easy to throw a lower level staffer under the bus.
Derrick, I want to bring you into this conversation. Your assessment of this day, and is it a moment, do you think, where there was, because of this Republican pushback that I noted, that it's different than times past?
Be clear, the president either posted this or directed for this to be posted. We have been ringing the alarm for over a year since he assumed the position for his second term. This is consistent with the tone and the voice of the president. Finally, we're beginning to see there is a red line that Republicans say you cannot cross. But unfortunately, for the majority of African Americans across the country, we knew that this is how he felt about the community. He has demonstrated that throughout his second term. In fact, his first term, and the policies that he advocated for, the posture that he has taken, and his reaction to African Americans, particularly who disagree with his policy and his voice.
Do you believe, Derrick, that this will have long-lasting effect on the president's image within the African-American community in our country?
I think the African-American community, for the most part, have made their mind up about his image, what he represents, who he is. This is just another example, an extreme example. We begin to question whether or not he has the mental capacity to continue to serve as president. We are looking at an individual who have demonstrated diminished capacity and sensitive behavior towards communities that he doesn't believe should be considered as citizens, dehumanizing approaches such as this. This is an old tactic to dehumanize communities so you can justify aggressive policies towards their existence. This should be extremely concerning, not only to African Americans, which it is, it should be extremely concerning to all Americans. And I am finally glad to see there's possibly a red line that has been drawn.
Melik, the president talks with justifiable pride about how he did with the African American community in the 2024 election and the Latino community. I'll ask you the same question I just posed to Derrick. Do you think this could have any long-lasting effect?
I do, and this is something, and people have talked about it, they've kind of centered Donald Trump in this move. If you look at what's been happening with Republican governors, whether that's Brian Kemp, whether that's Ohio's governor, Mike DeWine, there have been moves that the Republican Party had been making with minorities. At the presidential level, Donald Trump did something that was pretty historic, and he talked about a message, he talked about economics, he talked about affordability, he talked about a lot of those things, even when you get into the social issues that many of us concerned about, where they've amplified the issue of trans kids and things like that. Many people in the Black community said then that, we do have a problem with that. So Donald Trump had a very unique opportunity, but I think that, unlike, because I was one of those I was doing media in the first term, we had a lot of room to run with in the first term, whether you're talking about the First Step Act, opportunity zones, things that the administration was actually doing to help minorities compete for
support for HBCUs.
HBCUs. There were a lot of things that the administration
that went down because of the president's advocacy.
Yes, but this time around, 2.0, I honestly, and I've talked to the White House about this and expressed my concerns, whereas that first term, I could talk about all of this stuff. Well, I can't talk about a second Step Act because I don't see it. Sure, he's done some work around HBCUs, but when you look at the employment numbers, well, the employment numbers for African Americans, both male and female, those numbers are up. We don't have more money in our pocket. So this will make it very difficult at a time when Republicans are already slated to lose seats more than likely in the House rather than the Senate. It will make it very difficult to message, well, what do we get out of this? Because that's going to be the question going into the fall. Donald Trump won't be on the ballot, and you'll have many people, as I've been asked even coming on the show, what did we get out of this? And if Donald Trump doesn't have a better economic message, and even messaging coming from the White House, leave the memes alone and all of those sort of things, if he doesn't have a better message, a better footprint in the Black community as far as the progress, because I think what we do, we kind of overstate the notion that somehow the federal government does something exclusively for Black people. Well, the federal government doesn't do that, but he has to give us something to work with, and what he's doing right now is something that is actually just going to push back all of the gains that he made.
Derrick, I described this as a conversation. I want you to have the last word and engage Melik if you want to, or any of the Republicans in my audience watching this who might be wondering what your appeal or message to them might be in this particular painful moment.
Well, the real question for me is, as president of the most powerful nation in the world, surely there's something else that he could be working on or doing other than sending out negative, nasty, unhinged messages on social media platforms. I mean, we have an economic crisis. We have a crisis around global warming. We have a crisis in terms of our immigration concerns and how ICE is addressing citizens and non-citizens, but particularly citizens. We are confronting issues around hostilities towards Canada, of all places, or Greenland. Surely there is something else he can be doing other than sitting in the White House on social media platforms attacking and ridiculing communities. And if he doesn't have anything else to do, I go back to the question, is he competent to serve in the position? I think this is diminishing capacity, and he's going back to infantile behavior as opposed to being presidential.
The CEO and president of the NAACP, Derrick Johnson, you've been on the program many times. I know you'll come back. Melik, it's your first time. I hope you'll come back. I appreciate the conversation very much. Thank you both.